Well, hi friends, and welcome to NC Family's weekly update for the week ending June the 21st. Of course, we're down at the North Carolina General Assembly. It's been a really busy week here on Jones Street. We started out the week with the House having announced at the end of last week that they were going to roll their budget out this week, and they did that on Tuesday in committee. And then on Wednesday and Thursday, they took the budget up for a vote on the floor of the House, and the budget, Jerry, actually passed by, well, what has been touted as bipartisan support. Pretty much all the Republicans supported it, and then a handful of Democrats.
Right.
But the primary and major things that were included in the budget, and this was an adjustment to the budget bill that was actually passed last year. This is the second year of a two-year biennium, and so the budget this year is just really making adjustments to the budget that already was approved last year for the 2024-25 fiscal year. So the big differences in this year's budget is that the House appropriated significant money. Sorry.
We are here live.
Yeah. The House appropriated significant funds to bridge the gap in funding for opportunity scholarships for children in North Carolina and families who desire to send their child to private school, and using the voucher system to do that, which is exciting. The House also appropriated funds for increases in child care and teacher pay and state employees pay and things like that. There is some controversy with that in that the Senate leadership has announced that they don't necessarily agree with those funding, or not all of the funding mechanisms. They seem to agree on the opportunity scholarships. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the budget, with the House having passed its version of the budget this week.
All right. Yeah, and unfortunately what apparently led to this House action was the House and the Senate have been trying to work through their differences.
Yeah.
And they were not being successful. Apparently there were some significant differences, which they say they're still trying to work through. But instead of waiting longer, the House decided to just go ahead and pass a budget. But then interestingly, yesterday, the Senate announced they do have their version of the budget, which they did not bring up yet. So all these negotiations, a side note, John, you mentioned though about the opportunity scholarships. This is one of the troubling parts of these negotiations and the two chambers trying to work through things. A while back, the Senate passed a separate bill addressing the need for additional funding for the 50,000 plus students on the wait list for opportunity scholarships. By waiting until now and putting it in the budget, it's obviously delayed any legislation moving through relating to those. So time is running really short on that because they've announced they're basically going to be leaving next week after they meet. So even if they pass something
for a period of time.
For a period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not.
We don't know how long it's going to be yet.
Could be. We've heard September. We've heard November, but at a minimum, we know. It sounded like for the month of July, people are going to be on vacation. They've been planning on being away. So all these negotiations and things that are happening now, unfortunately, with a deadlock, that means the deadlock's going to extend beyond this time, with some exceptions. So we'll see how next week works out, but that's where things stand right now.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry. We're very hopeful that the House and Senate will at least come together on the funding for opportunity scholarships and bridge that gap so that children, students and families, and the schools that these children would be attending know what they can count on and what to expect. So in other really big news this week, a big surprise, sort of an unexpected development. On Wednesday afternoon, the Senate Judiciary Committee took up a bill that deals with either banning or regulating hemp-derived consumables like vaping and gummies and drinkable liquids that have cannabis-type products in it. And they took this bill up and added in the Senate Bill 3, which is the bill that would legalize marijuana in North Carolina for quote-unquote medical purposes. That bill, of course, passed the Senate last year in March. The House didn't take the bill up last year. They haven't taken it up this year. And this is yet another attempt by the Senate to put pressure on the House to take up and give consideration and take a vote on this bill that would legalize marijuana in North Carolina.
Yeah. And again, really an unfortunate situation where there's legislation that people are agreeing needs to be passed. Like you say, John, along with the hemp-derived consumables, that bill also changed the substance, the way certain substances are looked at under our law, which would basically make kratom is one of the very problematic ones. Another one is tineptine, which is also referred to as gas station heroin. We've mentioned that in recent weeks because legislation has passed, both chambers, that made us hopeful that something would address these substances. Well, now they're all part of this bill, which people were already a little bit uneasy about some of the substances. Well, now all of a sudden to add marijuana to everything else, it's all of a sudden taken legislation that people have said is urgent. We need to address what's happening in communities with the sale of a lot of these problematic substances. Now all of a sudden we've added marijuana back to the debate. And as we pointed out again today in committee, that substance is one where there is a lot of information we've continued to share for years now, that the AMA, American Medical Association, Food and Drug Administration, neurologists, psychiatrists, none of them support marijuana as medicine. So we're saying we need to look at medicine and science. So now we've got, in addition to the discussion about immediate action, now we've added something that's been part of a long time debate. So this is, you know, you've heard the saying over the years, John, two things you don't want to see being made are sausage and laws. This is the time of year when you really don't, the making of laws is not pretty, and sometimes it's really not the right process for things to happen, but this is part of reality when you get near the end of a session.
Well, that's true, Jerry, and although it's an ugly process at times, it's really important that folks are involved and reach out and express their interest and concerns to their legislators. I mentioned that this bill passed the Senate Judiciary Committee on Wednesday, but then this Thursday morning, it came up in the Senate Rules Committee and it was approved there. Jerry, you did a great job in once again testifying before the Senate Rules Committee to help them understand the concerns of legalizing marijuana in North Carolina. And then not long after that, the bill in the Thursday afternoon hit the Senate floor and passed the Senate floor on an initial vote. The Senate is scheduled to take up another vote, the third reading vote on that bill on Monday. And so then if that passes, which all indications based on the vote that just took place on Thursday afternoon, that it is going to pass the Senate, but then it will return to the House. Because it's a House bill, it'll return to the House for what's called concurrence or a concurrence vote. And that is whether the House is going to vote to agree with the changes that were made in the Senate, or if they are going to not concur or not agree and send the bill to a conference committee. And if that happens, then members of the House and the Senate will be appointed to meet, discuss, and try to iron out differences between the two chambers' versions of the bill. Of course, we're going to continue to work to prevail and to urge our state House members in particular to oppose this bill and not take it up, so that the consideration of marijuana and marijuana legalization just doesn't happen in North Carolina.
And so we will, as we're doing now, but we'll be communicating more with you all about that, because it will next week go back over to the House, as you say, John. And so there's going to be a lot of pressure applied because, as I mentioned just a minute ago, there are parts of this bill that are critical that need to be addressed as soon as possible. But now something else has been added to the bill that's not just problematic, it really needs to be out of the bill. But that's not an option now. It's all going to, the process is such that members of the House are going to need to hear from you all, from us, from everybody about the serious concerns about this bill moving forward as it is.
Yeah. So keep your eyes on your email inboxes. We'll be sending more information.
Right.
We did send out some information about the passage of this bill with links to the bills. So you can look for a link to that below the video. There's also a link below the video to the budget bill if you're interested in more information about the House proposed budget and where that stands. Again, keep your eyes and ears open. We will be getting information out to you to help you understand how it's best to act and when you most importantly need to contact your legislators, and in the case of this marijuana bill, members of the State House. So stay tuned, and we appreciate in advance your action on that. Appreciate your support and your prayers. We certainly need those, especially as the session seems to be winding down. So we're grateful.
And I know we usually say that near the end, not because it's not lower in importance. It's obviously number one in importance. And actually in debate on the floor today and in committee, members have mentioned, we're trying to do a lot of these things to help protect the citizens of North Carolina. But really, ultimately, what needs to happen is hearts and minds being changed. Yep. Not just as it relates to votes and on particular issues. It's how people think about life, how people make decisions as they relate to these problematic substances. We all need to be praying that God will work, and not just in the hearts and minds of elected officials, but all hearts and minds to look to Him for decisions in life, because we know ultimately that's what needs to happen.
Amen, Jerry. Amen.
Yeah.
Well, friends, thank you as always for your time and attention. Thanks for your prayers. Thanks for your support. And thanks for your action. We will be in touch. Again, keep your eyes and ears open. Watch your email inboxes, and we will keep you informed of what's happening here down at the state legislature. Thanks so much, and God bless you.